Kate Morrison walked down the long metal hallway toward the main meeting room of the Galactic Council station. Her shoes made soft clicking sounds on the polished floor. She had been the human ambassador for 5 years now, and had seen many changes in how the other alien species treated her people. None of those changes had been good. The station floated in space around a distant planet called Kepler 442b. It was huge and shiny, built by dozens of different alien races working together. The humans had helped build parts of it too, back when. The other species still wanted their help. Those days seemed very far away now. Jake Phillips walked beside Kate wearing his best civilian clothes. He was a military commander, but today he needed to look like a regular diplomat. Behind them came Dr. Lisa Park, carrying a small electronic device that held information more valuable than gold. The three humans moved quietly through corridors filled with strange alien creatures who barely looked at them anymore. The meeting room was enormous. It could hold representatives from over 200 different species. Today it was packed full. Kate could see the tall, crystal-like beings from the Zephyrian worlds standing in their usual spot near the front. Their bodies looked like living glass that changed colors based on their moods. Right now, they were glowing an angry red color. The fish-like creatures from the water worlds of Tiamat floated in special tanks filled with their home planet's salty water. Their scales shimmered as they moved. Near them sat the bird people from the avian systems, their feathers ruffled with excitement about today's vote. But the strangest aliens were the ones from Helix Prime. They looked like giant crystals that could sing in perfect harmony. When they all sang together, it sounded beautiful but also scary. Today their song was low and threatening. Kate took her seat at the human section, which felt very small compared to all the other areas. There used to be more human representatives here, but over the past few years the council had said they didn't need so many humans at their meetings. It was just another way of pushing humans aside. The meeting started with High Regent Crystallis Prime speaking first. He was the leader of the crystal beings and had never liked humans very much. His body glowed bright yellow as he talked, which meant he was feeling very confident about something. "Today we vote on the most important issue facing our galaxy," he said, his voice making the air vibrate. "The human species has shown time and again that they are too aggressive and unpredictable to be trusted with full freedom in our galactic community." Kate felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her face calm. She had heard this kind of talk before. The aliens always said humans were too violent or too quick to fight. But Kate knew the real reason they didn't like humans. Humans were too good at solving problems and making new things. The other species were jealous. Crystallis Prime continued speaking. "We have tried trade restrictions to slow down their expansion. We have limited which star systems they can explore. We have put rules on their military ships and their science experiments. But none of this has been enough to control their dangerous nature." The crystal being's body turned a deeper shade of red. "Today we vote on the final solution. All human children born from now on must undergo genetic modification to remove their aggressive tendencies and make them more compatible with galactic society." A wave of excited sounds came from the alien representatives. The bird people chirped happily. The fish creatures made bubbling noises in their tanks. Even the crystal singers from Helix Prime started a cheerful tune. Kate looked around the room and felt sick. They were talking about changing human babies before they were even born. They wanted to remove everything that made humans special and turn them into something more like the other species. It was the ultimate insult. One by one, the different species voted. The crystal beings voted yes. The bird people voted yes. The fish creatures voted yes. The plant-like beings from the garden worlds voted yes. Even species that had been friends with humans for decades voted yes. Finally, it was Kate's turn to speak. She stood up slowly, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Every alien eye in the room was looking at her. She knew that what she said next would change everything. "The United Earth Coalition has listened carefully to all of your concerns," she began, her voice carrying clearly across the huge room. "We have thought long and hard about your proposal to genetically modify our children." The room was completely quiet now. Even the background humming of the space station seemed to stop. Kate reached into her jacket and pulled out a formal document. After much consideration, we have made our decision about our future with this council. She paused and looked around the room one more time. These aliens had been humanity's partners for over 300 years. They had explored space together, built cities together, and fought common enemies together. But now they wanted to change the very nature of what it meant to be human. Effective immediately, humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Council, Kate announced. We end all treaties, all trade agreements, and all diplomatic relationships that were made under this council's authority. The room exploded into chaos. Aliens jumped up from their seats, making angry noises in dozens of different languages. Crystallis Prime's crystal body flashed between red and purple so fast it hurt to look at. The bird people screeched. The fish creatures thrashed in their tanks. The Helix Prime singers made a sound like breaking glass. But Kate wasn't finished. She raised her voice above the noise. Our ships are already leaving council space as I speak. We ask that you do not follow us and do not try to find us. From this day forward, humanity will make its own way among the stars. She folded the document and put it back in her jacket. Then she turned and walked toward the exit, with Jake and Dr. Park following close behind. As they left the room, Kate could hear the aliens behind them arguing loudly about what to do next. The three humans walked back down the metal hallway toward their shuttle. Their footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. They passed windows that showed the vast emptiness of space, filled with distant stars that seemed to twinkle with promise. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Dr. Park asked quietly. Kate looked out at the stars and smiled. Lisa, for the first time in years, I'm sure we're doing exactly the right thing. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued their emergency session, but the humans were already gone. Alex Turner stood on the bridge of his ship and watched thousands of human vessels move through space like a giant river of metal and light. Each ship carried families, workers, scientists, and soldiers away from the only homes they had ever known. But nobody was crying. Instead, their faces showed determination and hope for what lay ahead. The UES Horizon was one of the largest ships in the human fleet. From his captain's chair, Alex could see the bridge crew working at their stations with calm efficiency. These men and women had trained for this day for months, though most of them had not known what they were really preparing for until just a few hours ago. Navigation report, Alex called out to his officers. Nina Brooks, his second in command, checked her computer screens. All 8,147 vessels are in position, Captain. We have colony ships carrying civilians, cargo ships full of equipment and supplies, factory ships that can build whatever we need, research vessels with our best scientists, and military ships to protect everyone. Alex nodded. The numbers were staggering when he thought about them. 12 billion humans were leaving their homes across hundreds of worlds to follow their leaders into the unknown. It was the biggest movement of people in the history of the galaxy, but this exodus had been planned very carefully. For the past 2 years, while the Galactic Council had been making more and more rules to control humanity, human leaders had been working on a secret project. They called it the Exodus Protocol, and it involved moving every single human in Council space to a new home far away from alien interference. Dr. Lisa Park had made it all possible with her breakthrough discovery. While working in a secret laboratory on Earth's moon, she had figured out how to build a completely new type of faster-than-light engine. The aliens had always controlled space travel by managing the jump gate network that connected different star systems. But Lisa's quantum tunneling drive didn't need jump gates at all. The new engines could fold space itself, allowing ships to travel instantly across vast distances without leaving the energy signatures that alien sensors could detect. To anyone watching, the human ships would simply vanish like they had never existed at all. Ryan Mitchell, the chief engineer, approached Alex with a serious expression on his face. Captain, the quantum core is running perfectly. All ships in the fleet report their drives are ready for synchronized departure. Alex felt a mixture of excitement and sadness as he looked out at the stars. Humans had been part of the galactic community for over 3 centuries. They had helped build the Council, fought alongside alien allies against common enemies, and shared their knowledge and culture with dozens of different species. Now they were leaving it all behind. But the aliens had made their choice when they voted to change human children. They wanted to remove everything that made humans special. Their creativity, their willingness to take risks, their ability to adapt and overcome challenges. They saw these traits as flaws that needed to be fixed. Humans saw them as their greatest strengths. "Open a channel to all ships in the fleet," Alex ordered. A few seconds later, his voice was being broadcast to every human vessel in the massive convoy. Millions of people stopped what they were doing to listen to their admiral's final words before they left their old lives behind. "Citizens of humanity," Alex began. "Today we do not run away in fear. Today we move forward toward a future that we will build with our own hands. The aliens wanted to change us to make us weaker and more obedient. Instead, they have given us the greatest gift possible: our freedom." He paused and looked at the star charts showing their destination. Human scout ships had been secretly exploring the target region for decades. It was a cluster of star systems nearly 15,000 light-years beyond the furthest edge of Council space. The area was rich in planets perfect for human colonization, with resources that could support their civilization for millions of years. "Our new home waits for us among distant stars," Alex continued. "There we will build cities and farms and factories without asking permission from anyone. Our children will grow up free to become whatever they choose to be. And someday, when we are strong enough, the galaxy will know that trying to control humanity was the biggest mistake the Council ever made." Cheers erupted from thousands of ships as humans celebrated their newfound independence. Children pressed their faces against windows to get one last look at the space they were leaving. Adults hugged each other and made promises about the new worlds they would build together. Alex smiled as he heard the excitement in the voices of his people. Then he opened another channel, this one to his bridge crew and the other ship commanders. "All vessels, prepare for quantum jump on my mark. Navigation, confirm our destination coordinates." Nina Brooks read from her screens. "Destination confirmed. Target system designation Terra Nova Prime, approximately 14,847 light-years from current position. All ships report ready for synchronized departure." The moment felt historic to everyone on the bridge. They were about to make the longest space journey in human history, traveling farther than any human had ever gone before. When they arrived at their new home, they would be completely alone for the first time in centuries. Engineering final status check on the quantum drives. Ryan Mitchell monitored his instruments carefully. "All drives showing green lights, Captain. Power levels at maximum. The synchronized jump system is working perfectly." Alex took a deep breath and thought about the magnitude of what they were doing. Behind them lay 300 years of galactic citizenship with all its benefits and restrictions. Ahead lay the unknown, full of both promise and danger. But humans had always been explorers at heart, and the unknown called to them like an old friend. "Attention all ships," Alex announced. "Today humanity chooses its own destiny. Jump sequence begins in 10 seconds. The countdown started, and Alex could feel the tension building throughout the fleet. On thousands of ships, human families held hands and prepared for the journey to their new home. Engineers checked their equipment one final time. Pilots gripped their controls with steady hands. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Space itself seemed to ripple and bend as nearly 9,000 human ships activated their quantum drives simultaneously. The massive fleet disappeared from Council space in an instant, leaving behind only empty vacuum where humanity's greatest adventure had just begun. The aliens would search for them, but they would find nothing. Humanity had vanished like a dream, carrying with them all the knowledge, skills, and determination that had once made them valuable members of the galactic community. Now they would use those same qualities to build something even better in the darkness between the stars. Crystallis Prime stood in front of the emergency council meeting, his crystal body flickering between different shades of orange and red. 3 months had passed since the humans disappeared, and the news he had to share was not good. The other alien representatives sat in their usual places, but the atmosphere in the great meeting hall felt different now. Everyone seemed nervous and worried about something. Fellow council members, Crystalis began, his voice making the air vibrate. With uncomfortable harmonics, the economic reports from across our territory are deeply troubling. The disappearance of humanity has created problems we did not anticipate. Ambassador 7 Notes of Harmony from the Helix Prime Collective chimed in with worried musical tones. Our manufacturing centers are reporting severe shortages of key materials and technologies. We relied on human industrial methods for building most of our equipment. Without their knowledge and expertise, our production has dropped by more than half. The crystal being's body darkened as he continued reading from his datapad. Human trade routes connected 847 different star systems across our space. They transported goods, people, and information between worlds that had never been able to communicate directly before. With their ships gone, many colonies are now completely isolated. Admiral Depth Swimmer of the Aquatic Confederation floated in her water tank, her scales flashing dim patterns of distress. Our exploration programs have almost completely stopped. Human survey teams were responsible for mapping new star systems and finding planets suitable for colonization. They had better equipment and faster ships than anyone else. Without them, we are blind to what lies beyond our current borders. But the military reports were even more frightening than the economic problems. General Sharp Talon of the Avian Supremacy ruffled his feathers in agitation as he spoke. Our defense analysis shows critical weaknesses throughout Council space. We always assumed that humans were just one part of our military strength, but the truth is much worse. They were the foundation that everything else was built on. The bird-like alien activated a holographic display that showed military statistics from across the galaxy. The numbers were shocking. Human shipyards had built 60% of all Council military vessels. Human officers commanded most of the joint defense fleets. Human tactical innovations had revolutionized how all the species fought their battles. Their military academies trained officers from every member species, Sharp Talon continued. Human strategic doctrines guided our defense planning. Human early warning systems protected our borders. Human rapid response fleets dealt with threats before they could become serious problems. We thought we were managing them, but they were actually managing our entire security structure. Whisper thought of the Shadow Collective materialized near the center of the room, his dark form barely visible even in the bright lights. Intelligence reports confirm our worst fears. The Void Raiders have noticed humanity's absence and are already probing our outer defenses. The insectoid swarms are mobilizing near our border systems. Even the neutral species are beginning to question Council authority. The silence that followed was heavy with dread. For decades, the Council had seen humanity as a problem that needed to be controlled. Humans were too aggressive, too innovative, too willing to take risks. They expanded too quickly, asked too many questions, and refused to accept limitations that other species found reasonable. But now the Council was discovering what the galaxy looked like without human participation. Trade networks were collapsing. Scientific progress had slowed to a crawl. Military defenses were revealing gaps that enemies were eager to exploit. Entire sectors that had prospered under human management were sliding into economic chaos. Melodic 12 of Joy, another representative from Helix Prime, sang a mournful tune before speaking. Our scientific research has stagnated without human creativity. They had a unique ability to see solutions that no one else could imagine. They would take technologies from different species and combine them in ways that created something entirely new and better. The plant-like beings from the botanical consciousness swayed their branches sadly as their representatives spoke through rustling leaves. Human agricultural innovations fed billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Their farming techniques, their crop modifications, their distribution systems. Without these, many of our colonies face starvation. Crystalis Prime felt his body shifting to deeper and deeper shades of red as the reports continued. Every aspect of galactic civilization had been touched by human influence. They had not just been members of the Council. They had been the engine that drove progress and prosperity across thousands of worlds. Have our search fleets found any trace of where they went? He asked desperately. Whisper Thought's form seemed to become even more transparent.
None. We have sent expeditions to every system humans ever visited. We have checked their former colony worlds, their old research stations, their abandoned mining facilities. It is as if 12 billion people and their entire civilization simply
ceased to exist. The Shadow Collective had the best intelligence network in the galaxy, with spies and sensors in every corner of known space. If they could not find humanity, then humanity truly had vanished completely. Their departure method remains completely unknown to our science, Whisper Thought continued. They did not use the jump gate network. They left no energy signatures that our sensors can detect. Their disappearance defies every law of physics we understand. Elder Root Deep of the botanical consciousness spoke with the slow, measured words of his ancient species. Perhaps we made an error in our judgment of humanity. They were never the problem we believed them to be. Instead, they were the solution to problems we did not even know we had. The admission sent shockwaves through the council chamber. Elder Root Deep was over 800 years old and had been present when humans first joined the galactic community. He had initially supported the restrictions on human expansion, believing they were necessary for galactic stability. "What do you propose we do?" asked Admiral Depth Swimmer, her bioluminescent patterns dim with worry. Crystallis Prime looked around the great hall at representatives from dozens of alien species. All of them looked frightened and uncertain about the future. The council that had once seemed so powerful and united was fracturing under the weight of its own mistakes. "We must find them," he declared, his crystal body pulsing with desperate determination. "Send more search fleets to unexplored regions, increase surveillance of border systems, offer rewards to anyone who provides information about human locations. The Council's survival may depend on humanity's return." But even as he spoke these words, Crystallis Prime knew the truth that none of them wanted to admit. Humanity had not just left Council space. They had escaped from Council control entirely. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, 12 billion humans were building something that the Council could not imagine, influence, or stop. The age of human cooperation was over. The age of human independence had begun, and the Galactic Council was only just starting to understand what they had lost when they tried to change the very nature of humanity itself. 1 full year had passed since humanity vanished from Council space, and the great meeting hall of the Galactic Council looked very different now. Many seats that had once been filled with alien representatives sat empty. Some species had withdrawn from Council participation entirely, while others were too busy dealing with their own problems to attend regular sessions. President Eternal Voice Among Stars called the emergency meeting to order, but his usual confident tone was gone. The tall, ethereal being from the transcendent realm looked tired and worried as he surveyed the sparse crowd before him. Where once hundreds of species had gathered to make decisions for the galaxy, now only a few dozen remained. "The situation continues to deteriorate across all sectors," he announced, his voice echoing strangely in the half-empty chamber. "What began as economic disruption has evolved into something far more serious. The Council itself is under threat." Military Coordinator Sharpclaw stepped forward to give his report. The bird-like alien's feathers were ruffled and unkempt, showing his stress. "The Void Raiders have penetrated deep into what we once considered secure Council territory. They have captured 17 star systems in the past 3 months alone. Our defense fleets cannot stop their advance. The Void Raiders had once been considered a minor threat, a nomadic species that occasionally raided isolated outposts for supplies. The Council had always assumed their own superior technology, and numbers would keep these barbarians contained in the outer regions of the galaxy. But without human tactical expertise and rapid response capabilities, the Raiders were revealing themselves to be far more dangerous than anyone had realized. "How is this possible?" demanded Crystallis Prime, his crystal body flashing angry red colors. "We have thousands of warships and millions of trained soldiers." Sharpclaw activated a holographic display that showed the current military situation. Large red areas marked systems that had fallen to various hostile forces. "The problem is not our numbers, High Regent. The problem is that humans were the backbone of our entire defense strategy. They designed our battle tactics. They commanded our joint fleets. They built most of our weapons, and they maintained our early warning networks." The display zoomed in on a particularly troubling area where Void Raider forces had broken through Council lines. Without human leadership, our different species cannot coordinate effectively in battle. The Zephyrians fight in formations that make no sense to the aquatic forces. The Helix Prime Collective's battle songs confuse the avian squadrons. Everyone is used to human officers translating between different military cultures and finding tactics that work for all species together. But the military collapse was only one part of the Council's problems. Trade wars had erupted between member species as they competed for resources and markets that humans had once managed peacefully. The crystal beings and the plant people were fighting over agricultural worlds. The bird folk and the fish people were battling for control of mining systems. Ancient rivalries that human diplomacy had kept under control for centuries were now exploding into open conflict. Ambassador Flowing Current from the Aquatic Confederation spoke from her water tank, her scales flickering with patterns of distress. 3 more species have formally withdrawn from the Council this month. They claim we can no longer provide the security and prosperity that membership once guaranteed. I fear they are correct. The economic situation was catastrophic. Without human innovation driving technological progress, scientific advancement had virtually stopped. The different species had become so dependent on human creativity and problem-solving abilities that they could barely maintain their existing technology, let alone develop new solutions to emerging challenges. Dr. Harmonic Resonance from the Helix Prime Collective sang a mournful tune before speaking. Our research facilities report complete stagnation in most fields of study. Humans had a unique ability to make connections between seemingly unrelated concepts. They would take discoveries from one species and combine them with knowledge from another to create breakthrough innovations that benefited everyone. The plant being Elder Moss Wisdom swayed his branches sadly as he added his observations. Food production across council space has dropped by 40%. Human agricultural techniques were integrated into farming systems on thousands of worlds. Without their expertise, many colonies face famine within the next growing season. Even worse than the internal problems were the external threats that humanity's absence had revealed. Species that had been kept in check by the Council's perceived strength were now testing their borders. The insectoid hives were mobilizing vast swarm fleets. The Machine Collective was expanding aggressively into former Council territory. Even previously, neutral species were making territorial claims and threatening military action. The Draconic Empire has issued an ultimatum, reported Intelligence Coordinator Whisper Thought, his shadowy form barely visible in the dim light. They demand the return of star systems they claim were stolen from them 3 centuries ago. They give us 30 standard days to comply, or they will take the systems by force. Crystallis Prime felt his crystal structure darkening to deep purple, the color of profound despair. The Draconic Empire had been defeated by a Council-Human alliance generations ago. The peace treaty had been negotiated by human diplomats and enforced by human military strength. Without humanity's backing, the Council had no way to resist the dragon's demands. Perhaps, suggested Elder Root Ancient of the Botanical Consciousness, we should consider that our policies regarding humanity were fundamentally flawed. We treated them as a problem to be managed when they were actually the foundation upon which our entire civilization rested. The ancient plant being had lived for over 1,000 years and remembered when humans first joined the galactic community. Back then, they had been primitive creatures with crude technology and violent tendencies. But over the centuries, they had grown and evolved, becoming the most innovative and adaptable species in the galaxy. We feared their potential for aggression, Root Ancient continued, but we failed to appreciate their even greater potential for creation, cooperation, and protection. They did not conquer us through force. They made themselves indispensable through excellence. The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. Humanity had not dominated the Council through military might or political manipulation. They had simply become so good at solving problems, creating new technologies, and managing complex systems that other species had naturally turned to them for leadership and guidance. President Eternal Voice Among Stars looked around the nearly empty chamber with growing desperation. We must find them and convince them to return. The Council cannot survive without human participation. But even as he spoke these words, Everyone in the room knew how unlikely that outcome had become. The search fleets had found no trace of humanity's location. The few attempts at long-range communication had received no response. It was as if humans had decided that the rest of the galaxy simply did not exist anymore. "What if they do not wish to be found?" asked Admiral Depthsinger quietly. "What if humanity has decided that they are better off without us?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. For the first time in their history, the members of the Galactic Council were forced to contemplate a galaxy where humanity not only did not need them, but actively chose to avoid all contact with their former allies. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, 12 billion humans were building a new civilization free from alien interference or control. And with each passing day, it became more obvious that they were succeeding beyond anyone's wildest dreams, while the council that had tried to limit their potential was collapsing under the weight of its own short-sightedness. 2 years after humanity's departure, the emergency alarms in the council station began screaming with a sound that no one had heard in decades. Every sensor array in the system was detecting something impossible, a massive energy signature that had appeared from nowhere, right in the heart of council space. Captain Laura Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Transcendence and smiled as she watched the alien reaction to her ship's arrival. Through the view screen, she could see dozens of council vessels scrambling to respond to her sudden appearance. Their ships looked exactly the same as they had 2 years ago, but her own vessel had changed in ways that would have seemed impossible to the aliens who once thought they understood human technology. The Transcendence was a work of art as much as it was a starship. Its hull seemed to be made of living metal that flowed and shifted like liquid mercury. Crystal formations that resembled alien architecture but functioned with purely human engineering grew from its surface. Energy patterns that bent space itself surrounded the ship like a glowing aurora. It was beautiful, terrifying, and completely beyond anything the Council had ever seen before. "Captain," reported Navigation Officer Marcus Webb from his station, "we're detecting 47 Council vessels moving toward our position. They're maintaining a respectful distance, but their weapons are powered up." Laura laughed softly. The aliens' caution was well-founded and completely unnecessary at the same time. The technology gap between human and council capabilities had grown so wide in just 2 years that their weapons could not even touch her ship, let alone damage it. But she had not come here to fight. She had come to deliver a message. "Open a communication channel to the council station," she ordered. "All frequencies, maximum broadcast power. I want every alien in this system to hear what I have to say." Within moments, her image was appearing on screens throughout the station and across the council fleet. She found herself looking into the great meeting hall where a hastily assembled crowd of alien representatives sat in stunned silence. Many of the seats were empty now, a clear sign that the council was not the powerful organization it had once been. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," Laura began, her voice carrying easily across the vast chamber. "I am Captain Laura Chen of the United Human Federation. I bring greetings from humanity and a message about our current status in this galaxy." President Eternal Voice Among Stars leaned forward desperately from his elevated platform. "Captain Chen, the Council has reconsidered many of its previous policies regarding human participation. Perhaps we could arrange diplomatic discussions to address past misunderstandings and work toward renewed cooperation." Laura's expression did not change, but her tone became noticeably colder. "The time for diplomatic discussions ended when you voted to genetically modify our children, Mr. President. I am not here to negotiate humanity's return to Council membership. I am here to inform you of new realities in this galaxy." She gestured towards something beyond the view screen's range, and suddenly the display behind her activated to show a star map that made several council members gasp audibly. It showed not just the local region of the galaxy that the council controlled, but a vast expanse of space spanning multiple galactic arms, with thousands of star systems marked in human blue. "During our absence from council space, humanity has not been idle," Laura continued. "We have established colonies and outposts across 17 different galactic sectors. We have developed technologies that make your current capabilities look primitive by comparison. We have built alliances with species you have never encountered, and civilizations you cannot imagine. The implications of her words hit the council like a physical blow. While they had been struggling with the collapse of their own civilization, humans had been building something that made the council look small and insignificant by comparison. Crystallis Prime's crystal body flickered frantically between different colors as he tried to process what he was hearing. Captain, surely humanity remembers its obligations to former allies. The Void Raiders continue to threaten our space. Our defenses are failing without human assistance. Certainly you would not abandon those who once stood beside you. Laura's smile turned predatory. The Void Raiders? She said with amusement. High Regent, the Void Raiders surrendered to our frontier patrol fleet 6 months ago. Their entire civilization has been integrated into human space as productive citizens and valued contributors to our expansion efforts. It seems they found our approach to diplomacy more effective than the Council's methods. The chamber erupted in shocked voices and panicked conversations as the aliens tried to comprehend what they had just heard. The threat that had been devastating, Council space for over a year, had been casually resolved by humanity as a minor side project. Admiral Sharp Talon's feathers stood on end as he squawked in disbelief. Impossible. The Void Raiders have hundreds of warships and millions of warriors. How could they simply surrender? They surrendered, Laura explained patiently, because we offered them something better than endless raiding and scavenging. We gave them planets to call home, technology to improve their lives, and a purpose beyond mere survival. When faced with human generosity and human strength working together, they chose cooperation over conflict. She paused to let that sink in before continuing. The same offer was extended to the insectoid hives, the Machine Collective, and even the Draconic Empire. Most chose to join us willingly. Those who refused learned that human military capabilities have advanced somewhat since our departure. Doctor. Harmonic resonance from Helix Prime sang a discordant note of confusion. But how is such rapid advancement possible? 2 years is barely enough time for basic research, let alone the kind of revolutionary breakthroughs you describe. Laura's expression softened slightly, showing something that might have been pity. Doctor, you and your colleagues spent decades trying to control human potential, never realizing that potential was the very foundation that kept your civilization stable and growing. You wanted us limited, restricted, reduced to fit your comfortable ideas about galactic harmony. Instead, you freed us to become something greater than you ever imagined possible. The truth was even more remarkable than what Laura was willing to share with the Council. Human creativity, released from alien restrictions and powered by absolute necessity, had produced technological advances that bordered on the miraculous. Quantum engineering allowed them to manipulate matter at the subatomic level. Dimensional mathematics opened doorways to universes of infinite resources. Biological enhancement made every human stronger, smarter, and more capable than any baseline member of their species had ever been. Elder root deep of the botanical consciousness swayed his ancient branches sadly. What do you want from us, Captain Chen? Why have you returned to tell us these things? Laura looked around the chamber at the faces of species that had once been humanity's partners and allies. Some showed fear, others showed anger, but most showed the same desperate hope that she had seen in human faces during the darkest days before the Exodus. I want nothing from you, she said simply. Humanity no longer requires council approval, council resources, or council cooperation to thrive among the stars. We have found our own path through the galaxy, and that path leads to places and possibilities that you cannot follow. She stood up straighter, and her voice took on the tone of someone delivering a final judgment. You spent centuries fearing what humans might become if left unchecked. Now you have your answer. We became everything you were afraid of and everything you needed us to be but were too blind to appreciate. The transmission ended abruptly, and the human vessel vanished from council space as suddenly as it had appeared. The aliens were left staring at empty space where the most advanced starship in galactic history had been floating just moments before. In the silence that followed, Crystallis Prime's crystal form flickered through every color in the spectrum, before settling on deep black, the color of absolute despair. "What have we done?" he whispered. But the question came too late for redemption. Somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, humanity continued its expansion among infinite stars, free at last to write their own destiny across the cosmic void. The Council's attempt to break human potential had succeeded only in breaking their own limitations on what humans could achieve. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of human transcendence had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again.